Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Um, my name is Austin Bach. If you're new here, tonight we're going to be doing something a bit different. Normally, a Friday nights we've been watching some classic movies during the summer, but tonight we're going to be doing this. It's called Cold Case. It's a fictitious cold case. It's kind of like a mystery in a box, a murder mystery in a box. So throughout the night, I hope to have your help solving this. I'll share a link in a second that gives you access to the contents of this during the live stream, so you can read along. I'll also be sharing stuff on screen as I'm looking at it, so that you can see what we're you can look at all the evidence with us. If you want to participate in the chat, which I already see 7B and AZ live with Roscoe and Lori, thanks for being here. If you want to join the chat, you can scan this QR code, or I also put the ticker down there. You can go to youtube.com/OTR Gold to join. I'm going to be looking at it, looking for input and help on solving this case. Tonight, I'm joined by two very important guests here. Hang on 1 second. Before I get to that, Roscoe's got a question. And I see Lori became a member. Lori, thank you for joining the YouTube membership. Appreciate that. Roscoe's asking about, Austin did it with a glow in the dark sticker. Yeah, you're already accusing me of committing the crime. But that does remind me of these. I wanted to announce this. We've hit 5,000 subscribers recently, and as a thank you to the longtime listeners, I want to give you one of these stickers. So I'll try and get it close. So these are glow in the dark stickers. If you've joined and interacted in a past live stream, send me an email at contact@otrgold.com. Tell me which of these you want, and I'll send you a coupon code to get it from our Shopify store. Let me see if I can show you this real quick. If I turn the lights off, put a flashlight on this for a second. These things glow super great. Look at that. That's just like a few seconds under the light. Come on, focus. There we go. Anyway, if you want one of those for free, send me an email and I'll send one your way as a thank you. Okay, so got a few other people joining, Taro, Donna, Chris, and Lori. But anyway, like I was saying, I'm joined by two guests today. One you've seen before. I'll bring him on. This is my dad, the old guy, the old man himself. Jim Vach. Dad, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Well, obviously, I'm Austin's dad, and I have 3 other sons and a daughter. I had a career in law enforcement as a special investigator with the California DMV, and then 29 years as a postal inspector, and then 7 years as a fraud analyst with the inspection service.
Yeah, so we're going to see if real life inspection expertise translates to the game world. I have high hopes, but if we don't solve this in 45 minutes, it's going to be a total failure. The other special guest we have here goes by Dr. Watson. I will let him decide if he wants to divulge more information than that, but Dr. Watson, why don't you introduce yourself?
Dr. Watson. I'm Austin's brother. So we're going to find out if I'm any good at this cold case solving thing. So we're going to need your help so we're not all embarrassed.
That's right. That's right. Great. And a nice office you have. Is that 221 Baker Street?
This, yeah, slightly updated. The furniture's a little newer.
Okay,
But,
nice.
It's got a Scotland Yard vibe.
Okay, cool. Dad looks like, sorry. It's hello, fellow Cali is the comment. So but Lori actually lives in Washington now. So a fellow Californian that has moved to Washington State. So cool.
We did that.
All right. So let's do this. Tyler, I'm going to just drop your volume a teeny bit. It sounds like there's some background noise, or if you go into your settings, there should be like a noise suppression thing there that gets kind of like some baseline noise out, but we'll deal with that in a second. Tonight, if you head to, let's say, I'm going to do this, review the evidence. I forgot to type this in here before, https:// So I'm going to give you a URL to go to where you can find this, the stuff we're going to be looking at. I'll also share it in the chat. Here we go. Here it is. If you go to that link right now, you will see a folder with a bunch of files in it. They're files that I've scanned. Dad, look, good to meet you. I work for the post office too. That's Keltoid 5.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, so if you go there, you're gonna have. I took scans of these things, and they're just gonna be up during the live stream. But anyway, so with that, Dad, I sent my dad a copy of this as well. Go ahead and open it up. I'm gonna read here. I'm gonna share my screen, and then I'm gonna read this intro video. So what comes in this cold case that I bought off Amazon, created by ThinkFun, it's a dossier. It's a file folder of a bunch of evidence, and it starts with this intro. So let me share my screen here, and then we'll do this. I'll read it, but you can see it as well. Let me just work here to get this squared away. Can we be down here? Okay, I think this might be the best one, the best view. So here's what we're going to be reading first. I'm going to go full screen. My dad has a copy of this there. And then let's just go on mute. Or Tyler, I'm still hearing a little bit of background, so you can go on mute. And then if you have stuff to share, come off mute. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so here it says, Camdale Police. Please find enclosed, dear detective. That's all of us. Thanks for being here. Oh, hang on. It says the thing. Is that link working for anybody else? Page not found. Give me 1 second before we go any farther. otrgold.com/cold case. That should work. Drop the HTTPS. Just go to otrgold.com. Okay. Dear detective, please find enclosed all retained papers relating to open case 722516, the killing of Andy Bailey by person or persons unknown at Findon Hall Woods on the morning of Friday, June 17th, 1988. Our small community was shaken by this crime, and it still troubles some of us, particularly those on the force who can remember the incident, that it remains unsolved. I hope your specific knowledge and experience will succeed where we have failed, even after all this time. For conservation purposes, any physical evidence, as well as audio and video recordings from the original case, are off-site at the area climate-controlled storage facility. The transcripts and documents here are everything you have to work with. I've cross-referenced the original records to compile a list of contents for you on the next page. Record keeping back then wasn't as good as it is today, so I apologize if the files are a bit muddled. The key information we were unable to ascertain on the case is as follows. So these are the 4 questions we're going to have to answer in the hour. Let's do this, and let me just make one change real quick. Captions. Okay. Who killed Andy Bailey? 2, if the killer was not found present at the scene of the crime, then how did they escape notice entering and exiting? 3, where did the murder weapon come from? 4, we have reason to believe that a 20-pound note or 20 pounds was missing from the scene of the crime. Who took this money and what was it used for? If you're able to make any headway on the case and find cause to reopen the investigation, you should pass the details to the Royal Prosecution Service at thinkfun.com/cold case. So this is where we have to submit our answers to these questions and see if it's there. And I'm seeing comments come in that the files aren't up. I will check it again, and I'll send you a better link. So just stay tuned for a sec. The webpage will process your findings in order to determine if further investigation is warranted. This murder had a huge effect on us here in our small rural community. I hope you are able to succeed where we have failed and finally bring us all some closure. Good luck. Signed, A.D. Applethwaite, Camdale Police Archives. Okay, so Dad, while I am looking at the rest of this, I'm going to look into the issue with the links for everyone else. But on the back, you have all of the evidence that's here, Tyler, as well. The files that I've put in that folder are named the same. So you guys can start. In a second, we'll talk about our strategy, but right now, while I'm dealing with the files, you can just start reading through that stuff. But then if you have a call out on a document, just say what the document name is, so I can jump to it as well on the shared screen, and then we can look at the relevant section. Any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. What are your initial thoughts, and how do we approach this? Just start reading through everything.
Yeah, I think we just go through all the evidence that we can find. Like I just looked at the Camdale Mercury newspaper. That's document number 1. And it says he had a series of exposés of high-level corruption in Camdale politics. So it could be one of the people that he had exposed. Obviously, family is always, spouses are often suspects, and or maybe even somebody at work that he worked with that was jealous of his success. So, I mean, right off the bat, there's some ideas. Also, looks like he was killed in the morning at 9 o'clock, and it's in June, which is more close to the longest day of the year. So I don't know if that would make any difference, but there ought to be lots of daylight for a long time.
Okay,
So,
cool. So it looks like people have access to the files now. Great. So I'm going to keep this thing. Actually, let me keep this pinned up here so people can see it themselves. Oops. So otrgold.com/cold case doesn't work. Were people doing that all caps? Hopefully not. I don't know if that matters or not, but I'll pin the comment up there in YouTube so people can see it. And then Tyler, so it looks like I guess let's just take some time for a second. I'm gonna read through this whole document. I also scanned the back of the newspaper, but it looks just like wedding announcements. I think I'm going to ignore that for now. We maybe come back to it. It's scanned there, but I'm just going to read this article. And then there's, do you want to just read it in the order that they present the evidence here? Or should we start with the interviews? What do you think?
well, I think I would just go through the evidence as it's presented. Now, actually, it says letter from unknown. What I'm looking at next in the pile is the autopsy report. Is that in the list of evidence? I'm not.
The preliminary autopsy.
Oh, there it is. So that's
4.
actually number 4. I think I'm just going to read it as I see it presented in the package.
Okay. Cool. So then Tyler, if you're following along, you got I'm going to start with the Camdale Mercury newspaper, then I'll switch to the letter from unknown. And to save everybody here on the call, I'm not going to read out loud. I'm just going to read silently over here, but we can talk through this. And I think Tyler, you can come off mute.
Okay. Does that sound okay?
I still hear some hum of some
All
sort,
right.
but it's fine.
Alrighty. So just starting off, I just grab some of the facts real quick. So like victim's name, Andrew Andy Bailey, who was killed in Fendon Hall Woods on Friday, June 17th of 1988. And then I just recorded the questions that we've been asked to answer. I just have a pile of sticky notes, so super high-tech detective tools. So we don't have to keep going tab to tab. So yeah, I think if we just go through the evidence in order, and we can, if you're following along, just write details that pop out to you. And then once we move through all the evidence, then we can kind of review the facts and see if we can't hypothesize who may have knocked this guy off.
Okay, cool. So let's maybe just read. I'm going to read through the first 4. So I'm going to read the newspaper, the letter, the reconstructed letter, the autopsy, and then that first interview. And maybe we check in after that with compare notes in that case. So those on the stream, grab a notebook, grab a yellow notepad, and then you can do the same when we get there. Share your thoughts here. So one second, I'm gonna go on mute, and but I'll stay on camera. We'll be back in a sec. Looking for some music to play here on the stream. If it's any good.
Mission Impossible.
Okay, and all these things that are here are kind of garbage right now. So I'll just I'll stay off mute and maybe talk through it as I go. So one second. Okay, so this newspaper article says they're getting a comment from Charlie Nichols. He is one of the people that is interviewed later. So looks like he's Charlie's the editor in chief at the newspaper.
Just looking at the autopsy report, he was killed at close range by 2 bullets. The first one hit his lower body, but the interesting thing is on the report under personal effects, it says we are informed, and I don't know if that is a pound. It says it's like an L with a cross on it. I think that might be pound. 480 pounds in new 10-pound notes were removed from the mouth of the cadaver. So it sounds like somebody's making a statement by putting a bunch of money in his mouth. And then there was also another 16 pounds, I believe, in old notes and coins in his trouser pockets, along with his house key. So obviously robbery wasn't the purpose. And it looks like they're making some sort of a statement by stuffing the money in his mouth.
Okay. That makes sense. No stolen. So it's not going to be someone. The motive has to be more than just wanting money, some random robbery.
Right, but it's interesting. They said that there's a missing 20 pounds, right?
Let's go back. Let me look at that. That was on the initial, the intro document. Yeah, one of the questions, question number 4, we have reason to believe that 20 pounds was missing from the scene of the crime. Who took this money and what was it used for? So they could be 2 unrelated crimes. Potentially someone did the murder and then someone just, crime of opportunity, found a body afterwards, stole some money. But that also seems strange if they left all the money in the mouth.
Exactly.
And in the pocket. So I don't know. But if people on the chat have it, let me know. I'm waiting to see comments come through. But okay, I'll jump back to that. Gonna keep reading this one.
And Andy, who's Andy? Andy is the
victim.
Oh,
Or
Andy
the
Bailey,
John
okay,
Doe.
is the victim. And this was found on his desk.
What was found in his desk?
This note document number 2, it says found at Andy Bailey's desk. So
I'm going to do this real quick. In the documents, I'm going to number them. So Dad, you can keep going, but I'm going to number these so that everyone's on the same page here in terms of things. Tyler, you have any thoughts thus far?
And I just wrote down, so from that newspaper, the facts we got obviously Charlie Nichols' name, editor in chief, and that they believe in that newspaper article he was killed around 9 a.m. So I've just noted those things down. And then I think once we get that autopsy report for everyone, once everyone can see it, I was just trying to write down the things they found on his body. So I wrote the money amounts in his mouth, the money amount in his pocket. There was a house key, a handkerchief, and then I didn't quite get to the other items that were listed there.
Okay. Good. Keep going. I'm renaming these documents right now so we can just say like document 1, document 2, blah blah blah.
Okay, what does that money total up to? So 480.
I think it's like 5, 12, 16 if I did the math in my head real quick.
Yeah, so actually, I'm looking at this note to Andy. To Andy for the unknown, and it says he wants 500 pounds, which is cheap for what you'll get. So he must have got 500 pounds then, maybe from this anonymous person. And 480, that's where they get the 20 was in his mouth. 20's missing from that, and maybe the additional 3216 in old notes and coins, because it was new notes that were found in his mouth. So that's probably just money that he normally had. So the 480 pounds is something that he got from this unknown letter writer.
That's good. That's good. I'm almost done with my renaming and I can re-engage and just get it some. Once I finish putting the numbers on all these, all everyone's gonna have to do is just refresh the URL and then you'll see all the updated names, all the numbers come through. I'll tell you when I'm done with that and you can do that, but I'm got 5 more to do here. 11, 12.
Let me correct something. So he might have had the $500 to give to this guy he was going to maybe meet. This guy is wanting 500 pounds, I should say. He wanted 500 pounds.
Is it a guy for sure, or you're just saying?
Well, no, yeah, sorry. This person wanted 500 pounds for
Just
the
the
information.
facts, man.
Yeah, absolutely. He or she.
We got Dragnet fans on here. They all catch that reference, even though he never said
it. Wanted 500 pounds for the information. So maybe he was taking it to this person when he was killed.
I would concur there, Sherlock. So I would say, yeah, if all the bills were in tens and they were all newer, then he probably got it from the bank and brought it. And then the 3216 and random stuff was probably just stuff he had in his pockets. Yeah. So I would guess that 480 pounds with a missing $20 note, so 500 pounds total, was something he was supposed to give. So now it appears that maybe they didn't even want money. They just wanted him in that certain spot. So maybe he was just lured there. It wasn't about money.
Yeah, I think you're right. Could be.
Okay, so just real quick, let me interject. I finished numbering. So anybody else tuning in on the stream, refresh your browser and you should see all the numbers. So now, Dad, we have this document in front of us. Tyler will can see it as well. Just say like document 12, and then I'll pull it up. I gotta close all these and do it again, but we'll get through it. So 1 second. Keep going. Okay, so I'm going to open up a bunch of things here. Also, I want to apologize. I know I was telling people that we were going to have my sister on the stream, and she's the queen of escape rooms, putting pieces together, but she is unavailable this evening. So we're going to move forward without her. Hopefully we can still solve this case together, but hope to get, if people enjoy this, we can maybe do another one and get her on the stream. Just give me 1 second. I'm almost done opening these back up, and then I have them all here in order. And And if you're seeing what I'm doing, I like to just open them all up at once, and then I can jump back and forth between them super easy. So, okay, I have all 17 documents up. Okay, so you guys want to catch me up to, so someone's read the letter from unknown document 2? Unknown
Yes.
document?
Well, yes, I did.
And what's the gist of it?
This person is saying they want 500 pounds to, and they're going to provide information for it, and it's plenty worth it. So it says, meet me at Findon Mill Friday morning at 9 a.m., which is about the time he was killed. And I don't know if Findon Mill is near, didn't it say he was found in the forest or the woods? So I don't know if there's woods around Findon Hall, but I would think so. So it almost sounds if he was killed at 9 and he was meeting this person probably lured him, as Dr. Watson said, into a trap. Yeah, apparently the news article says Findon Hall Woods. So sounds like he was lured into it.
Dad, here's this other thing I have up here. So the green thing is a flyer from there. I don't know what TC is yet. I don't see what the reference is to TC, but there's a mark right here. It looks like it's about the furthest point away from that street. So would be a maybe more secluded spot. I can see.
Let me see if where is that?
And then also going back to document number 2, it's talking about, it says Ahmed is a disgrace. So Zara Ahmed is this lady. She's interviewed. The transcript of her interview is document 5. I haven't read it yet. But okay, so let's go back here. Can open these guys up. CCTV. Lori says CCTV looks like a woman. Okay, so I saw that as well, this document, but I haven't yet seen how this is connected. If you have an idea on that, Lori, let us know. I mean, like, was there? I haven't read a summary somewhere where they think this happened. Oh wait, what is this? What's the time on this? 1988, June 17th. When was he murdered? What time?
9 a.m. Roughly 9.
So this
June
is
17th of 88. Yeah, so that's a timestamp of the video.
Yeah, so at 9:08, and he was murdered when? Dad, you just said?
The newspaper says about 9 a.m. and that's when he was supposed to meet with this anonymous information giver.
Okay, so okay. So how many other women are here that were? So there's Ahmed, Zara Ahmed. It's this lady.
By the way, I haven't read her interview, but just looking at her haircut, that could be Zara Ahmed in that picture.
Yeah, I was gonna look. Are there other people? So there's this lady, Debbie, Kath. Let's go back to this CCTV photo. It looks like slightly longer hair than Kathy, in my opinion, or Kath. David Edison. And this guy. Okay. We're gonna keep going. I'm gonna start back at this part right here. He's believed to have been researching a lead for his latest article. Police are treating it as suspicious and appealing for members of the public who are in the area to contact them.
Let's see.
Okay, I'm just scanning the back of that newspaper. I do think it's irrelevant. Oh, look at this. Hey, actually. So one of the this John Howland and Elizabeth Tilley announced their engagement. So on the back of this thing, I was scanning through it. This photo right here of these cigarettes, they're pleased to announce their engagement. The happy couple are pictured above at their favorite cafe in Paris. The two of them were on holiday together when John asked Elizabeth to marry him. Okay, so I don't know if this is relevant, but these cigarettes, if you go to scene of forensics report 13, says, with reference to the case, our findings are as follows. So item 1, which is below, 3 cigarette butts retrieved from the proximity of the body, which is this image down here, A, B, and C. 3 cigarette butts. Says they're all attached. All 3 are in good condition and have not suffered any degree of deterioration. We conclude that they were discarded with a maximum of 6 hours before being collected. I don't know when the collection time was. But microscopic analysis shows them to be a brand called Single Blue. Photograph attached. This is what caught my eye. If you scroll down. Oops.
Good catch, Austin.
Single Blue. Les Single Blue. So that's now on the back of this newspaper, but I don't see any
That's gotta have something.
So you'd probably just skip over that.
Interviews with people there. So either depending on when the evidence was collected, these people could have just been out in the park. Could be completely unrelated, just smoking a cigarette out there before they left. But maybe this is red herring.
I think that's potentially a good catch, because I think most of the time you would probably just not even think about what's on the back. So.
Right, but I'm reading here. She's always been close with her community. She could be found volunteering. So it doesn't say like she's involved with local politics or something, but perhaps she's the informant. An informant. Just something to note. Okay. So let me write this down. Her name is John Howard and Elizabeth Tilley. I'm going to write their names down. Also, if you hear someone's voice in the background, it's my mom. I won't out her, but she's off camera. I think also reviewing. There she is. Don't want to be on camera. My whole family's here. Oh, not my whole family, but some people here. Okay, Elizabeth Tilley. Okay, I think I've read everything there. I'm going to now move on to item number 2. Oh, also, so because I've done like a quick review of all these things, if you go to document 14, it's a typographics examination report. See these like double ampersands right here on this thing? Document 14. Here's the typographical analysis from Camdale Police. So the A sample, so there's several different samples, but only A and B have that distinctive double strike. From Andy Bailey's desk and Zara Ahmed's waste bin. So distinctive double strike of ampersand, letter retrieved from his desk. Distinctive double strike, letter retrieved from Zara Ahmed's waste bin.
So if this person, unless they're throwing people off, this letter to Zara, she says, we girls have to stick together.
This reconstructed one, number 3?
Yes, number 3. She says in here in the fourth paragraph at the bottom, we girls have to stick together.
I'm not seeing
She
that.
says, I will be
Oh,
at
right at the
Findon
end.
Mill at 9:10 a.m. prompt on Friday. Which this person could be getting Zara there in order to put her near the scene of the crime.
Mm-hmm.
So is it easier just to go to start at the beginning of we went to document 1, just go to document 2, and then just write down all the facts in each piece of evidence and go along that way?
That's what I'm planning to do. Got a thumbs up from.
I think it'll be
The
easier for everyone to
mystery
track
solver.
if we're not jumping
Okay,
around pages.
so I haven't read anything completely except for item 1. So are we good to just go together through item 2?
Okay. Yeah,
I can read it and then we can comment about it.
yeah, the letter
and-
from the unknown. So that's what I just went over.
Okay, and what's the? Do you mind if I just reread it then,
Yeah.
real quick? Not very long.
Yeah.
Okay. Andy, I hope you managed to nail those corrupt people at the council. They deserve everything that's coming to them. So Andy, Ahmed is a disgrace. On the take from loads of businesses, and might as well be working for Threlford, which is a new name. I don't know who that is yet. Threlford.
It's probably one of the companies that he's been investigating, I would assume.
Okay. It's disgusting what is happening in this town, and I hope you nail them. I have information which will help you, but it's a big risk for me passing this on to you, so I want paying for it. I want payment for it. That's a weird way of saying it. £500, and it's all yours. Documents, signatures, contracts, the lot. How do you know I'm genuine? Well, let's just say it all relates to a certain project horizon. Okay, so now are you interested? I promise you it's dynamite, and we'll see this lot behind bars where they belong. So I want £500, which is cheap for what you'll get. Believe me, there will be plenty of other newspapers interested. All right, if you don't want it. I don't want anyone to see me giving you this, or I'm in real trouble. Meet me at Findon Mill Friday morning at 9 a.m. with the money. If you're not there at 9, I'll know you're not interested, and I'll sell it to Clarion or one of the national newspapers instead. You really don't want to miss out on this, Andy. It's your big break, and it's all yours for £500. Okay, what sticks out to you guys?
So I just summarized that the author of the letter thinks Miss Zara Ahmed is bad or corrupt. She, meaning Ahmed, might be working for Threlford. She mentions a project horizon, and she asked to meet promptly at 9 a.m. at the Findon Mill, and said if she's not there, or if our deceased Andy isn't there at 9, she'll assume he's not interested. So I would assume that if she's not going to wait past 9 a.m., that she, or the author of this letter, may have been there a little bit early.
Can you say it one more time? I was responding to Dodger Blue, who just joined.
Yeah, so the author of the anonymous letter thinks that Miss Zara Ahmed is corrupt, might be working for Threlford, mentioned a project horizon, and asked to meet our victim, Andrew or Andy Bailey, promptly at 9 a.m. no later. So I would assume that if it was supposed to be prompt at 9, that the author of this letter may have been at that spot at Findon Mill a little bit early.
Oh.
And I know we had a map. I don't know where Findon Mill sits
So
compared to Findon Hall Woods.
the map is document 15. Oh, yeah, in Findon Mill. So I'll show you document 15. Findon Mill is that secluded spot all the way over here. So that could potentially be someone trying to lure them down there, but it is also secluded spot to not be seen, but it is the furthest from the road, the very end of the track.
Okay. And is that so? If he were to park his car, would he have to walk along a trail that would take him by the woods? They could catch him in the woods before he got to the mill.
According to this, the only parking is right out here. So then what's this black thing down here? It's got to be the trail, or that's a creek. It looks like a creek. So
it looks like there's a bridge
I'm
over the
presuming
creek.
Yeah, it's this white part is the trail. See, but I still don't know what TC is. Lori says, I think they're trying to get her there. Also called out the number of adverbs and nouns in the original letter. Go back to this one. Okay. Should we move on? Because so then, since we just read that letter, I do want to jump back to this typographic one. So the other samples of these typewriters, different typewriter model, no double strike on the Camdale Mercury office typewriters. Because I was thinking, and then also no double strike on the Threlford Housing office typewriter. So there's a Threlford. It doesn't, and then the Camdale Council. So it doesn't look like the document was written on any of the typewriters in those 3 locations. Doesn't mean it's not somebody that still works for one of those 3 places, but they didn't at least use work equipment to draft that letter. Then the only 2 that have the double strike, which actually, let me look back at the double strike here. It looks like it's a consistent error in it, and it looks different than, it looks like the letters were, okay, so if you compare sample A to sample B, Andy got a letter, or I guess the one that they're zoomed up on is the letter we just read, item number 2. Item number, or item B is a double strike, but it's distinct. It's different. And that's the one that Zara received. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think it was written on the same typewriter. Potentially be written by different people at different times. I don't know yet. I guess this next one is the, okay, so should we move on to item number 3?
I would just also mention that the letter was addressed to Andy, not Andrew. So maybe they knew him pretty well. They're calling him Andy.
Yeah, well, and they also make reference to Project Horizon, which is like obviously some inside talk that they know about. This is interesting though, because so this Zara's letter, let's read it. I guess I'll read it and then we can talk.
What number is Zara's letter?
3. Dear Zara, I think it's just disgraceful the lies they've been printing about you. You do a fantastic job for this area, and it's about time someone stood up and said so, instead of spreading nasty rumors and gossip. For a woman to have risen to run the council like you have, especially with your poor beginnings, is inspirational to a lot of us women. There's a lot of jealous men out there gunning for you. Please don't let them win. The Mercury are a disgrace, but whoever has been feeding them these lies should be locked away, all right? Okay, there's this all right. They're saying it the same. Like they don't, they're saying all right, which that's not how you spell all right, right?
Unless that's how they do it in England, that sometimes they do things a little differently.
We have a few listeners from the UK. I don't know if any are on right now, but they probably not, 'cause it's like 3 a.m. over there. But it sounds like they're written by the same person, is what I'm suspecting, because the double stamp is the same. And they're
Exactly.
using similar words, and so it's like somebody trying to just get these 2 parties at each other's throats. So who would stand to benefit from having the press and the this reporter and the city councilwoman upset with each other.
By the way, my mysterious helper here pointed out that on the cover of the Camdale Mercury, it says Camdale Mercury is a member of the Collinson-Ahmed press group. So it almost sounds like the Mercury is writing articles or that Zara Ahmed might be related to the Mercury News. She might be an owner of the press group, but
That's interesting. Okay. Good to call out. To make a note of that. Okay, I'm going to keep reading this. You know, the leaks have been coming from inside your own offices, obviously. Well, I know who's behind them, and what's more, I can prove it. I have copies of letters from that nasty little creep, Andy Bailey, which named the person who's giving him his information. The letters show that Bailey has been making illegal payments in return for the information, so not only do you get rid of the source in your office, but you get Bailey sacked by the Mercury as well. I can't risk just posting it to you. I could easily end up losing my job over this. I really want to help you, but I have family to consider. If you could look me in the eye and tell me you'd find me a job somewhere at the council, if I'm fired over this, then I'd happily let you have all the evidence. Your word would be good enough for me. We girls have to stick together. Okay, so she's not asking for payment in this, or she, air quotes, is not asking for payment in this one. Just wants a job, a guaranteed job. Okay. All I ask is that you meet me somewhere quiet so I can reassure you I'll be at Findon Mill at 9:10. So 10 minutes later, right? Because it said prompt at 9. Yeah, meet me at Findon Mill at 9 with the money. And then this person, they're trying to line them up 10 minutes later. Meet me there. Tell me you'll look after me job-wise if they sack me over this, and I'll give you the letters. Then you can put this sordid mess behind you and get on with making this place better for all of us. If some person didn't mean to kill them, if they weren't intending to murder Andy right at the beginning, then they gave themselves a pretty tight window to find it. Or actually, better thing, they probably wouldn't do that on purpose. They're probably trying to frame this Ahmed lady for the murder, perhaps, because they're building up animosity, and then they're trying to get them there shortly after the crime is committed. So, and then just going back to the original page, if the killer was not found present, the question number 2, if the killer was not found present at the scene of the crime, then how did they escape? How did they escape notice entering and exiting? If we look at this thing right here, Findon Mills Wood, you could go out both ways. Or there's also the old mill tracks, you know, like it's not a one-way path. For all I can.
yeah.
So I don't know if that answers. I mean, you have the same parking lot, but you could go. I mean, you could obviously just take the track out to this lane out here. I'm going to move on to the next one. We're 50 minutes in, guys. We're past our. We got to do this in under an hour
We're
and a half.
awful detectives.
Yeah. Okay, we're not Sherlock Holmes. They haven't solved it just by looking at cell phone. Any comments from the group as they're reading? Just post them there. I'll read them out loud. Okay. Southern Central Hospital, preliminary autopsy diagnosis. They're saying the time and date of examination was coupled the very next day. The body is dressed in denim jeans, a long sleeve cotton shirt, and is wearing canvas shoes. Immediately noticeable are 2 wounds to the left anterior thoracic torso. That's the torso. Stippling around. What's that, Dad? Stippling?
A stippling?
Stippling around both wounds. Here, let me zoom in on this thing.
I actually don't remember what stippling is.
Okay, I'll just keep reading. Stippling around both wounds indicates a maximum firing range of 3 meters. So it's like 12 feet,
Thinking, yeah,
9 feet. But lack of abrasion ring means minimum range of 30 centimeters. So it wasn't pressed against their body when they shot him. Entrance hole of both bullets is almost circular, which suggests both shots were fired from immediately in front of the victim and in close succession. The upper wound is slightly more ovoid, suggesting penetration occurred as the victim was falling, for which we can conclude that the lower shot was fired first. Neither shot produced an exit wound. What does that mean? Like a small handgun? I mean, what can we assume from that?
well, it's not going to be a rifle. Probably a rifle would probably go clear through you, or a more powerful handgun. It's probably a lighter caliber, less less powerful handgun.
I think one of the documents mentioned 238 rounds were found near the body. That we will probably get there, but I think I saw that when we were jumping around.
Okay, cool.
Stippling just means like dots or small touches around the wound.
Okay.
Spots or marks.
Minor injuries, scratches and bruising to the right side of the face, consistent with a fall to the ground and matching surface contact of the position in which the body was found. Okay. The lower wound has caused extensive damage to internal organs, entering between certain vertebrae and disrupting the left ventricle and descending aorta. The upper wound has hit the upper surface before lodging in the lung. Both bullets have been removed and sent for analysis. There are no signs of any pre-existing heart and lung damage. Arteries are fine. Blood and tissue were taken from the body and have been sent to toxicology. So then here's where you call out the notes. Were formed that $480 in 10-pound notes were removed from the mouth prior to transportation to the mortuary. An additional $32.26 in old notes and coins was found in his trousers, together with house key and handkerchief. So yeah, somebody's trying to make a statement, as you already said. They did bring money. They did meet him there. They stuffed money in his mouth. Okay. Cause of death was 2 gunshot wounds to the anterior left thorax, causing severe damage to the heart, lungs, and associated tissues. Of these, the first lower wound caused the fatality. Lividity and rigidity is consistent with the time of death between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. So it didn't, they just assume, I guess they just split the difference and said 9 a.m. because it could be as early as that. Oh, hey, thank you, Nell. Nell said the same thing. Stippling to engrave by means of dots and flicks. Nell is a math teacher, but has a passion for Dragnet and obviously stippling. Thank you, Nell.
See, the autopsy report also mentions that our victim was likely not a smoker. So,
okay,
I believe again,
where does it
the
say that?
documents will show things that were so right where it talks about the lungs.
Oh, I skipped over that. I was like,
arteries are free from deposits and lungs are pink, healthy, and show no signs
Okay.
of smoker's lung.
Okay, so somebody else. So, and then what we don't know yet is when the police discovered the body, because the cigarettes, they say, were within 6 hours of discovery, but I haven't seen yet where that is. So now we go to Zara Ahmed's police interview. Any comments before I move on to that? Okay, I'm gonna go. Detective Harrison, we haven't heard that name before, so it doesn't seem so far, right? John Howard and Elizabeth Tilley. Please state your name, address, date of birth. Zara Ahmed, The Pines. I'm head of Camdale District Council. Miss Ahmed, you found the body of Mr. Bailey this morning. Can you tell us how did you come to be in Findenhall Woods? Look, this is going to sound strange, but I received a letter from someone offering information about leaks from my office. This is just unbelievable. I received this anonymous letter in the post yesterday. Andy Bailey had written these horrendous articles in the Mercury a few weeks ago, supposedly exposing corruption. He made it sound like some corrupt global enterprise rather than just a small rural outfit. Pure fabrication. There were some details which could have come from someone inside my team. The whole thing was libelous and very harmful to every one of my people. I spoke to Charlie Nichols, okay, who he's interviewed later, but he practically laughed at me and said, if I objected so strongly, I should take it further, and he'd see me in court. He had the nerve to talk to me about freedom of the press. My solicitor didn't want to get involved and said we should just let it all blow over. I rang Mr. Bailey direct to complain in the strongest possible terms, but he seemed to think it was an opportunity to interview me. This letter came offering me to meet me and help me find out who in my office had been passing information. At first, I dismissed it. In fact, I tore it up and threw it in the bin. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought I'd be letting down the other members of my team if I didn't go. Why should they have any lingering suspicion of their loyalty hanging over them? I mean, what did I have to lose? What did I have to lose other than a few hours down at Findon Hall Woods? The letter said I should be at Findon Hall at 9:10, and that's how I came to be there and how I came to find Andy Bailey lying dead on the ground. Do you have any idea who might have sent you the letter? Ahmed, I have no idea. Someone trying to set me up. Obviously, there are enough people who think I shouldn't be in charge in Camdale. Bigots, chauvinists, snobs, beaten political opponents. I'm not trying to be popular detective. I'm trying to do my very best for the ordinary, hardworking people of Camdale. Or maybe it was Bailey himself. I really don't know, but I sincerely hope you find out soon because, quite frankly, just about had enough of today. Do you still have the letter? No, I told you I tore it up and threw it in the bin. Of course, our office waste is only collected twice a week. So it's possible it's still there. Go through all our bins. Sergeant, get over to the counsel's office if you can find it. I think this is the longest interview. Some of them are like 1 page, but this is, I think, a 3-pager. So stick with me on this one. Sergeant, get over to the council. Oh, so this morning you drove to Findon Hall Woods. Yes, I parked by the cafe and walked along the path. So since she's mentioning this thing, I'm going to pull it up right now. She walked along the cafe, parked by the cafe, and walked along the path. Okay. Were there any other vehicles in the park? Just 2, I think. There was a cafe van and another car. So 2 cars. 2 cars in the lot when Zara arrives. And then you walked along the trail. Did you see anyone else? Did you notice anything out of the ordinary? No one else. It was cold and gray. The sun was getting out, and I walked around and I undid my coat and took off my hat and stuffed it in my pocket. Okay. Yep. The person who'd written the letter seemed very nervous about meeting me, so I wanted to make sure I got there exactly at the right time. I was doing exactly what they wanted. I could hear what sounded like a saw somewhere in the woods, and in places I could see where loggers had been at work very recently. I remember hearing 2 bangs up ahead and thought it was a bird scarer, or perhaps they were shooting over at Findon Hall. I don't know. So you got to the mill at 9:10. What did you find? As I walked around the corner, I could see a bicycle propped up against the seat. There was a helmet hanging on the handlebars and what looked like a heap of clothes on the ground by a tree. As I got closer, I could see it was a person slumped against the tree, almost as if they were sitting there, but the head was pushed right back, looking at the sky, and sticking out of his mouth was a roll of money. It was like something from a horror movie. As I got closer, I could see the jacket had a big red blood stain on the chest. His eyes were so wide, just staring into the sky. Then I realized who it was. I'd only met Bailey once before at the opening of a new office. I really thought it must be some kind of sick joke, a hidden camera thing, or maybe some stunt on his part to try and get something he could use against me. But the blood stain was spreading and he wasn't breathing. I went right up to him and sort of prodded him with my foot. He rolled to the side and his head hit the ground with a thump. That's when I knew it was real. I screamed and shouted for help. I was shaking and crying, and I just wanted to get as far away from the body as possible, but I couldn't move. Detective Harrison, take your time. I'm fine. I don't know how long I just stood there. A man came scrambling up the bank and asked if I was all right. He was a fisherman by the look and smell of him. I sat down on the ground a little way up the path, and he went off to fetch help. What did you touch at the scene? I don't think I touched anything apart from the body. When I kicked it, I threw up in the bushes while I sat there, but that was up the path. Do you smoke? What? No, I don't. Did you touch the money in Mr. Bailey's mouth? No, you must be joking. Were there any banknotes on the ground near the body? No, I didn't see any. Why are you so obsessed with the money? Okay, so I didn't like Mr. Bailey, but I wouldn't wish what happened to him on my worst enemy. We have reason to believe that some of the money is missing. Well, I certainly didn't take it. I wouldn't go near a body after it fell over, and the fisherman wasn't keen to get close to it either. Why would I take some of the money and not all of it? In fact, why would anybody? That's one of the things we need to find out. Along with who set me up like this. I need to get out of these clothes and into a shower. Can I go home, please? Just one more question. Do you know anything about Project Horizon? Where did you hear about that? We have reason to believe it was something to do with the case. I can't see how Project Horizon is an initiative at the council, a recent initiative. It's to do with some building projects in the area. Do you have any documentation that the council could send over? It's still very informal in the very early stages. I wouldn't be surprised if there were anything material to hand. Look, can I please go now? I've just seen a dead body. Should have been at work hours ago. We'll get a car to take you home, but we'll need to bag up your clothes before you leave here for comparative purposes with any evidence we find of the crime. We'll be in touch. Okay, so Project Horizon, I think that's what what'd you guys get from that? Also, that's comments more broadly, anything that stood out to those on the live stream.
Well, there was the bicycle, so we got to figure out who was riding the bicycle, and actually, and the fact that at the parking lot there was the cafe van and another car, and I did read ahead a little bit in the next interview.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare I? And that other car was the guy that was fishing, and the cafe van is normally there. So we don't know who was riding the bike. And the other thing that looked like, it says a heap of clothes on the ground by a tree. So I'm assuming somebody changed clothes.
No. Sorry, Dad. I think you misunderstood that. She said she thought she saw a heap of clothes, but then she got closer, right? Isn't that what they said?
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. You're right.
Yeah.
Slumped against the tree, almost as if they're okay. And he obviously was just shot, because it says the blood stain was spreading. So it was still, and it was very soon after the shooting.
Okay. She didn't mention any smell of smoking. So they could have left. It could have been in between before the cops arrived, right? So this is like 9:10 in our timeline. Tyler, do you have any? I mean, Mr. Watson, do you have anything?
So yeah, she mentioned she parked and that there were two other cars in addition to hers that were there. So the cafe van. So I wrote that down. There's a cafe van and then some other car. It appears she probably heard the gunshots. And then she said there's a man came scrambling up the bank. By the look and smell of him, she thought he was a fisherman. So she didn't notice any banknotes out on the ground, and she said she didn't touch any on the body. So then she freaks out and she leaves a little bit of a distance away. So possibly, if the fisherman was on hard times, maybe the fisherman guy took just 20 pounds real quick while she wasn't there before the police came. So
Yeah,
maybe
if they're
he
even
caused the money to come out of the mouth, or some of the bills to come out. I don't know.
Okay. All right, move on to the next one. Document 6. This is Terry Carlisle. So this guy, is not at all. Maybe this is the fisherman guy. We'll see.
Yeah,
Oh, it is?
it is.
Thanks, Dad. Okay, so I'll skip his stuff. Terry Carlisle, he's retired. Can you tell us in your own words what happened? Let me zoom up on this. I was fishing. I parked in the car park cafe as usual, popped in to ask Amelia in the cafe to see it, to keep an eye on my car for a few days. For a few days. Okay. And wheeled my gear down to the bend by the old mill. I got a late start, set off from home about 3, so I guess I've got the mill about 5:15. 5 in the morning. Is that what there were no other cars in the car park except Amelia's little work van. I didn't see anyone on my way to the river. Everyone was staying indoors. I reckon it looked like rain, although I didn't end up. Oh, that never did end up. Lucky for me. Actually, Tyler, you want to read this one since I'm not reading the whole time? Or Dad, you want to read this
Sure,
one? Tyler,
I can
the
read
next
this
one?
one.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so where did you end off? About
I
tea
took
time?
my little path.
I'll start like the second paragraph. There were no other cars in the car park except Amelia's little work van, and I didn't see anyone on my way to the river. Everyone was staying indoors, I reckon. It looked like rain, although it never did end up, lucky for me. I took my little path down the bank with the barrow, put the bivvy and my bed up, set the rods up, and made myself a cuppa on the stove.
This guy's using all the English
This is
slang.
harder reading.
Yeah.
I had everything set up for the first cast to go in at midnight. June 16th, you see. There's a closed season for fishing in rivers from March 14th to June 16th, so it became a bit of a tradition with me to get the first cast hitting the water at midnight as the 16th starts. You can fish on still waters during those 3 months, but it's not the same. Camping out down by the river, fishing through the night, you can't beat it. I had the first fish of the season at about 6 a.m. A bloody bream. I hate the things. Slimy, horrible, and you get more fight out of a paper bag. I fished on through yesterday and into this morning. I was planning to head home tomorrow morning, having a great big lunch at Amelia's on the way home. There's only so much bacon and beans a man can take. Nothing much happening. The river was up with a bit of color in it, so nothing much biting. I had a few decent fish, nothing special, but the weather had improved, and I was enjoying just watching the river roll by. Not many people know about this spot. From the path at the top, the bank looks too steep to get down with your fishing gear, but if you go a bit further on, you can get between the bushes and get your barrow down a much easier slope.
Do you know what barrow is?
Like a wheelbarrow, I'm guessing.
Wheelbarrow, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
The only way anyone would know you're there is if they see you as they cross the bridges there, the ones that lead to the old mill. Detective asked, "Did you see everyone who passes that part of the path going either way?" He says, "You surely can." So this morning I was having coffee from my flask when I saw the bloke on his bike going over the bridge. He was going pretty fast. I didn't pay too much attention because I had a fish on. Another bream. It was lovely and peaceful though. There was the odd noise from what sounded like a chainsaw up in the woods, and the occasional bang echoing around. I thought they must have been clay pigeon shooting or something over at the hall, but other than that, it was just the sound of the river and the birds. Around then, I suppose I noticed a lady coming along the western bridge, heading towards the ruins, just like the bloke. After a while, I heard a scream, a woman's scream, from back up near the path. It was horrible. I'll hear that scream till my dying day. I tried to go straight up the bank, but the grass was wet, and I'm not as fit as I used to be. So it took me a few minutes sliding about. I shouted, "Hello, are you okay?" Because I didn't know what was wrong, but there was no answer. I could hear a chainsaw again, off in the woods, and I know they've been working there all week. I thought there must have been some kind of accident. Anyways, it took a while to pick through the trees as the ruins are a bit removed from the path. But when I finally made it to the ruin, and she was just stood there screaming and crying. When I reached her, I could see there was a body lying at the foot of a tree. It was the bloke I'd seen cycling over the bridge. His bike was propped up against the seat there. I was going to move him into the recovery position, but it was obviously too late for that. He had a lot of blood seeping out onto the front of his jacket, and his eyes were wide open. I felt for his pulse, but there was nothing. The weirdest thing, though, was he had a bundle of banknotes sticking out of his mouth. 10-pound notes, it looked like, with one of those paper bands round they use in the bank. I used to work as a paramedic many years ago, and I've seen some terrible things in my time, and I can tell you, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to go and get help, but I didn't want to just leave her there. She sat down by the path, and I headed off to phone the police. There's a phone in the cafe, and it took a good 20 minutes, but I made it there and called you lot. Detective Harrison, did you see anyone else in the woods that morning? Carlisle says, just the woman and the boy on his bike. Did you touch anything on or around the body? Carlisle says, apart from checking for a pulse, no, I didn't touch anything. Detective Harrison, are you quite sure? He says, yes. Detective says, good. We'll need to take your clothing for examination, Mr. Carlisle. It's just routine. We'll fix you up with some temporary police overalls and arrange a car to take you home. The interview ends.
All right, I haven't seen anything in the evidence about like reviews of their clothes. So are we just supposed to ignore that? At least I haven't noticed it yet.
I haven't, looked at any of the crime reports, but yeah, they
Okay.
took everybody's
Clothes and all
clothes.
that. I mean, so what stands out to you guys about this one? I mean, I was interacting with some comments over here, but so he said earlier that he saw Andy riding his bicycle over the bridge. Let's actually look at where he was.
Yeah, it said Andy was the bloke that he saw cycling over the bridge, so the bike was Andy's.
Okay. And then was the woman coming from the same side?
Well, he says, I thought he said she was coming from the west.
So if we look right here,
I don't know if they took the
there's
north
potentially
path.
2 bridges.
Yeah,
right?
so it almost sounds like they parked at the cafe and then went on that north side and came around like the left side of the map. But I don't know. I was reading, so hopefully some of you wrote down some notes.
Dad,
You see, where's the river?
this is the river. So
What's
you have the river Poulter is the thick line, and the river
Okay.
Alm is.
Oh, I think TC is Terry Carlisle on the map. That's probably pointing to where Terry was fishing.
Oh, okay. So he's fishing.
Good.
So here, I'll keep that one up. Let me just read this again and keep this map up. I'll pull out this paper. Set the rods up, made myself a cuppa on the stove. I had everything set for the first cast. I had the first fish about 6 a.m. I was planning to head home tomorrow morning. Had a great big lunch. Amelia's on the way home. So he's obviously like buddy with the woman at the cafe. Talks about her several times. From the path at the top, the bank looks too steep. But if you go a bit further, you can get between the bushes and a barrow. Okay, the only way. But you can see everyone who passes that part of the path going either way. So he says either way. You surely can. So this morning I was having coffee from my flask when I saw the bloke on his bike going over the bridge. He was going pretty fast. I didn't pay much attention because I had a fish on. It was lovely. There was an odd noise from what sounded like a chainsaw. Yeah, so this chainsaw is weird. There's like this loggers up here. It's the second time someone's mentioned chainsaw noises.
Mm-hmm.
I think they must have been clay pigeon shooting over at the hall, which is over here. So if he's here, he heard the shot. I guess that we don't know where. I guess he was at the ruins. So, okay, it's right there.
Well, and that's where they were meeting. So I don't know which bridge that he supposedly saw the bicyclist. Did we pick that up?
Doesn't say. No, he just said I saw him coming over the bridge, but he didn't say which one. And the guy said you can see people coming both ways, and he said yeah. But then when it talks, after a while, I heard a scream. Oh, but other than that, it was just the sound of the river. Around then, I suppose, I noticed a lady coming along the western bridge, heading towards the ruins, just like the bloke. Or unless it does he mean coming from the western bridge, just like the bloke. So Zara, okay, this is interesting.
Why would
Zara, took the long path.
Yeah.
Suspicious, unless she doesn't know where it was. But She parked here. She could take the short path and come here. She decided to go, if he saw her on the Western Bridge. Yeah, the legend is right. So it's north, east, west. She is taking the long route.
But it also sounds like our victim took the same route.
Well,
She says
What
she
he's
can-
saying is true, but
heading towards the ruins, just like the bloke.
what bothers me about his statement is he hears these 2 gunshots, which if somebody is pigeon shooting, you're probably going to take more than 2 shots if you're shooting clay pigeons. Why didn't he do anything, go up and check it out when he heard gunshots, but he went up when there was a scream?
Well, I only need 1 shot when pigeon shooting, so
Yeah, speak for
just
yourself.
kidding.
Well, usually you shoot at least 20.
So it says, okay, it took me a few minutes sliding about it. I shouted, "Are you okay?" Because I didn't know what was wrong. I could hear a chainsaw again off in the woods. And I know they've been working there all week. I thought that must have been some kind of accident. Is it a chainsaw or could that be like a motorcycle or something else? Like
So I was thinking it could be like a 2-stroke, the really loud ones. 2-stroke motorcycle or motorized bike or something.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So interesting to know for now.
And he says he didn't touch anything. So, and well, so did she, except for kicking the body. So they both claim they didn't touch anything.
Yeah.
Now, this is, we still have a number of interviews, and the next one is quite lengthy. I'm wondering if we all ought to pick one and then summarize it for everybody else.
Okay. I think that's good. Some of our people on the East Coast are dropping off because it's late. I guess it's
Yeah.
late for you,
We
Dad.
could continue this next week too. I know Lori had to sign off, I believe.
Lori had to drop as well, but are we gonna leave this cold case unsolved with
So we
Okay.
still have 2,
So let's
3.
divide and conquer on these interviews. So Dad, which one are you gonna do?
Well, there's still 6 interviews, so we each can take 2. Although, like Charlie Nichols is pretty long, Debbie's isn't very long. Let's see here. Kath Anderson's is long, or Edison, Kath Edison. David Edison's is kind of short. Armitage is short. So why don't we take one long one? Oh, I missed Nigel Threlford.
Tyler, do you have you want to pick 2? Just pick 2, Tyler. Dad, then you pick 2. I'll take the final.
Just give me a number, and I'll look at them. Or give me 2 numbers.
Well, I'll take Charlie Nichols. That's a long one.
Tyler, why don't you take Nigel? That's
Nigel
8.
Threlford.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll take 9. Dad, you take 10. Tyler,
Okay, is
you
that a
take
short
11.
one? I
And
got a
I'll take-
long one, so I'm looking for a short one. So
was 10 short, Dad?
let me see here.
Kath Edison was pretty long.
I know Kath Edison's pretty long.
Okay, so Tyler's got Nigel. So I'll take Kath Edison then. Debbie's 1 page, so I'll take Debbie and Kath.
Okay, then I'll take Charlie and how about Russell Armitage? Because Charlie's pretty long.
Okay, Tyler, so you have David, Ellison, and Nigel.
Does that work out pretty good?
Tyler, so that's
Okay. David Ellison. What number is that?
David Edison is 11.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll keep mine up here. I'll start with
Yeah, you can walk through your letter with everybody while we read these.
I'll read through this one right here. Kath, Detective Harrison, please state your name, address, date of birth, and occupation. Miss Catherine Edison, Nelson Street, or Westington, 9th of September. I'm a housewife and carer for my mother. I'm sorry to have to ask you questions under such difficult circumstances, but we need to find out what happened to your brother. Oh, okay. Kath Edison is the brother of Andy Bailey. Okay. I understand. Thank you. What is it you want to know? Suppose we start by you telling me about your family. You grew up in Westington, I believe. Yes, we did. My dad worked on the building sites. Mom had a few odd jobs, mostly taking care of me, and then Andy came along when I was 5. They were both really hard workers. My parents, they were able to send both me and Andy to uni for nothing. I studied microbiology and Andy politics and journalism. From a kid, he was always ambitious and fired up about any little injustice. Used to drive my dad bananas. Anyway, after I qualified, I got a job at the hospital working in the labs, and that was how I met David, my husband. He used to bring in urgent specimens for testing. When we got married, we bought a little place just around the corner from mom and dad. They loved David. He and dad were like a couple of old pals, swapping yarns about their times in the army. Um, David was more of a son to dad than Andy ever was. Sorry to say, David was more of a son to dad than Andy ever was. Then came the accident. Okay, so hang on. Just writing down David, brother-in-law, or son-in-law. It's like strained family relationship with that Andy. Okay. Then came the accident. This is the accident in which your father died? Yes, and it left mom with severe difficulties physically and mentally. We thought for a while she might not make it, but she pulled through. I had to tell her that dad had died. I couldn't let anyone else do that. Detective Harrison, not even Andy? Andy, you must be joking. He came to dad's funeral but shot off as soon as dad was in the ground. Couldn't wait to get away. Said he had to study for his finals, so he had to get back to uni. Like that was the most important thing. Mom finally got out of the hospital and back home. She needed pretty well everything doing for her. It was really struggling to give her the time and attention she needed, and working full time as well. We tried to get help from the council, but they just weren't interested. They said mom had enough money to pay for her own care, but of course she couldn't actually get at that money because of dad's stupid will. David was working all the hours he could, so I couldn't cut down my hours. He's been my rock through all this, and from starting as a courier, he'd been promoted to dispatcher and then acting manager at the local branch. Now that he had a good salary coming in, he said I could just leave work altogether if that's what I wanted to do. He'd support me whatever I thought was best. Well, it was either that or I'd have a breakdown. Mom is very demanding. Not that she means to be. She just has days when she doesn't realize what is happening. Some days she doesn't even recognize me. Did Andy help with your mother? Andy comes around every now and again, but he's no help. I mean, he only lives 20 minutes away, but he's so damn busy with his important little world of petty politics and headlines. I think she still sees him as a little boy rather than fully grown, inconsiderate, self-centered egomaniac. His sister doesn't like her brother very much. You mentioned your late father's will. Andy just made me angry. Look, detective, I really don't know how I should feel right now. My little brother is dead and I'm shocked and distraught. But on the other hand, his selfishness was making our lives a misery. I just don't know what to feel. Suppose you tell us about the will. You said it was stupid. How so? Dad left the house and pretty well everything else to mom in his will. The camper van, a little bit of money in his savings account. He left me a little table he made himself. So, sorry, real quick. She mentions a camper van. There is a for sale sign in the list of evidence of a camper van. That's the first mention. I've been waiting to see when this camper van's getting mentioned. This document 17. He left me a little table he made himself, which he knew I always loved. It's in our hallway at home and reminds me of Dad every time I walk past it. David was left his battered old army trunks full of his old boots and uniform and such like. They're up in our attic, but David was really touched by Dad doing that. Andy got Dad's stamp albums. I don't think there was anything particularly valuable in there, but it had been something they did together when Andy was growing up and obviously meant a lot to Dad. Andy sold them. Anyway, Dad's nest egg was the plot of land he bought to the side of the house. He bought it from the farmer who'd owned it, and his plan for when he retired was to build a big bungalow there with a huge garden and outbuildings. We could work together on anything he liked. That was his dream. He paid a fair bit of money for the land. It's a good site right on the corner. In his will, he left the land to three of us equally, Mom, Andy, and me. Well, Dad's dream is never going to happen now, but if we sold the land, there'd be money to make the changes to Mom's house to make things easier for her. Proper professional care. One evening, about a month ago, I suppose, Nigel Threlford came to see me and David at home. Dad did a lot of work for him when he was first started his business and had always done whatever extra work was needed to make sure projects finished on time and to the best standards possible. He said Dad wasn't just a very good worker, but smart too. Dad had bought the corner plot of land that Nigel had his eye on. Fair play to him. Then he said something a bit odd. Said he had reason to believe the city council might have interest in that land. Well, I was shocked. He said if anyone from the council came sniffing around to just let him know. He didn't want the council, after all the trouble they were giving us with freeing up money for Mom's care, to cheat us out of what the land was worth. So just time out real quick. She's mentioned an accident. They don't say what the accident is, but then it's somehow related to the city council because they're involved somehow. So in your reading, if you see anything like that, please let me know. And for those just joining, we're reading through this evidence. If you want to read the evidence for yourself, it's at that link down below. It's just going to be up during the live stream. I'm also going to be sharing what I'm looking at. But please, 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 if you have, as long as they're not spoilers and you haven't, if you've done this before, please no spoilers. If you've not done this before and you're just guessing like the rest of us, or doing the investigation with the rest of us, please feel free to share, comment.
Hey, what did you say you want to know about?
There's so the Andy's dad, I'm reading the interview with the sister. The dad is talking about some accident and that killed the father. But then the city council is somehow involved and they're not letting Andy's mom take some of this money for whatever reason. Somehow they can't access the money in this property. And so, but I don't know what the accident was that killed the father or why the city council is involved.
By the way, the sister and Andy were not on speaking terms. It says the whole family really didn't like Andy, according to his boss, the editor at the newspaper.
Okay, well, his sister's statement is in line with that. They did not like the brother. Okay. He didn't want the council, after all the trouble they were giving us with freeing up money for Mom's care, to cheat us out of what the land was worth. Since he was such good friends with Dad and all, he said whatever they offered, he would double it. Well, sure enough, next day we get a call from the lady at the council, the one who's always complaining about chauvinism in the papers and everything, Zara something. She says she knows we've been having trouble negotiating Mom's care and that the council would like to offer to purchase the land as part of some project they're working on. I asked how much, and she said 50,000. So I straight away called Nigel and told him, and he repeated his offer, said he'd give us 100,000 for the land straight away. All that was left was to get Andy to agree. I asked Andy to come over as soon as possible. Of course, it took him a few days, even though I told him it was urgent. I told him everything that had been said. Goodness, did that get Andy steamed. He said it was all part of Project Horizon and that it was shady business and we couldn't possibly get involved. Then I told him about Threlford and he got even angrier, even smashed his cup of tea on the ground. Poor David had to get it cleaned up while I tried to calm Andy down. But Andy said he'd never sell Dad's land to a crook like Threlford. I tried to explain how Mom's life Could be made so much easier with that money, but he wasn't interested. He just stormed off muttering about that project, whatever. I must have called him a dozen times that week, but he was adamant, and in the end, he just stopped taking my calls. We couldn't sell the land without Andy's signature, but the council won't pay her help for mom because they say she owns a third share of the land and therefore has sufficient funds to arrange her own care. So he must have been pretty angry. I was completely distraught. So, question, I still don't understand why the council is involved in the care of the mom, but also potentially, like, if Nigel and the city council are in cahoots with each other, he sets it up as like, oh, I'll double whatever the offer is, and then the city council goes in and lowballs him intentionally. So then he doubles it, and it's still a deal. It could be part of what's going on. I don't know. Just thinking off the top of my head. Kath Edison, I was completely distraught and inconsolable. David finally figured out a way to cheer me up. He had an idea to give me a break. We talked about selling Dad's camper van because it was just standing on our driveway. David would start it up once a week so the battery didn't go flat and occasionally take it out for a little run. But basically, it wasn't being used, and Dad wouldn't have liked that. So David rang my Aunt Sarah, who lives down south, and asked if she'd come and stay with Mom for a week while we took Dad's camper off for one last run before we sold it. It would give me some time away, give Dad's van a fitting send-off, and Mom would have someone different to talk to. Sarah, bless her, said yes. David took time off work and had the best week ever. He took the ferry over to France. Okay, David went to France. Suspicious. That's where you get those cigarettes. David took time off from work and he had the best, took the ferries over to France, because again, this happened in the UK. So just a little short ferry across the channel. Spent the week meandering around, visiting little towns and villages, wandering around markets. It was perfect. I didn't want to come back, if I'm honest, but I knew Mom needed me. When we got home, David cleaned the van, took some nice photos, and wrote up an advert to put in the shop windows in town. His pal works at the printers, so he ran some copies for us. It'll be sad to see it go, but Dad would want it to be used rather than just sitting there. I have to ask you, Kath, can you please tell me where you were this morning? As it happens, I was in town going around to shops and asking them to put the for sale poster for the camper van right here in their windows. David had some reports he had to finish for work, so he asked me to do it. I took the bus into town. Wait, David had some reports he had to finish for work, so he asked me to do it. Oh, to put the pictures up. I took the bus into town as parking is a nightmare. That would have been basically at 8:20. The bus only runs every 2 hours, so if you miss that one, you basically wasted your morning. So can anyone vouch for your movements during the morning? Well, it was the regular bus driver on that route. He was also driving the bus I took back home from Market Square. That was 11:30. The shopkeepers would remember me too. I'm sure Davidson's Fast Mart, Courtney's, The Butcher, Camdale Hardware, and Coffee and Marketplace Cafe. I had a coffee at Marketplace Cafe while I was sitting waiting for the bus home. I got home about 12:15. David had lunch ready and had been around to see Mom. He even bought her a bunch of flowers. He's so wonderful. So you were nowhere in the vicinity of Findon Hall Woods? No, nowhere near. Just one last thing. Andy was found with his bicycle. Would that be normal for him? Oh yes, Andy never learned to drive. He goes everywhere. Went everywhere on that bike. Okay, so Andy goes everywhere on that bike. So this, if we go now to the CCTV thing, this is from Fastmart. So this is a photo of the sister that corroborates her story. Photo of the sister. She's got a stack of for sale signs under her arm. So she is, I think, pretty safe from suspicion, in my opinion. She's putting these up. After reading her testimony, though, Andy is the brother-in-law is very suspicious to me because he has a financial motivation. if with Andy out of the picture, they can sell the property and get 100,000, and then now split it between 2 people instead of 3. And they were just in France, and he could have picked up those cigarettes that were found, those French cigarettes that they found at the murder
By the
scene.
way, the editor also says that he was chatting with the brother-in-law
David.
at one of the regimental dinners they put on for us for former soldiers. So he was a soldier, as well as Charlie Nichols and Thrillford. They were all soldiers. And
At the
I was, what's that?
Like, not at the same time, right?
No, but they were all soldiers. And I was kind of skipped past the interview as I read my two to the lab report. And it says the bullets were of 38 caliber, a type issued for the Webley Mark IV revolver issued to the armed forces from 1899 to 1963. Markings do not match any recorded on the central database, but it sounds like it was a military weapon.
1963. I mean, if that's the latest they issue it, this guy, David, was born 1951. So if you look right here at his interview, so he would have to be 12 years old when he enlisted to get that weapon.
Okay.
So, I mean,
But then if it is a military, then it might be Thrillford or Charlie Nichols would be, let's see, how old is Thrillford?
And while you're looking that up, any comments from the chat?
6
Put them in there, and I'll read them
or
out loud. We hadn't seen any of this evidence before the start of this live stream, so we're just going through it right now, everybody. Dr. Watson, you get anything?
Yeah, so I read the interviews of Nigel Threlford and of David Edison. So I'll start with Nigel. So Nigel says he owns and runs the Threlford housing with 20 plus employees. He and the victim's father, worked for Threlford for a time. They do have a military connection. It appears he knew the family well. It appears he is a smoker. He mentions they have a discussion and they smoke.
David or Nigel?
Nigel smoked some cigarettes over a conversation. He said that the morning of the murder that his secretary, Mrs. Connors, picked him up because he's banned from driving, that they went to the office and that they were there doing office items all morning. They didn't specify the time that they arrived at the office.
You said the assistant was Debbie?
It was Miss Connors. I don't know if that's
Okay,
Debbie.
that's the one I haven't read yet, is Debbie Connors.
Debbie or Miss? Okay, Debbie Connors. So Debbie is Nigel Threlford's assistant.
And girlfriend, apparently.
Oh, and girlfriend. So he does talk about Project Horizon and just that it was a plot of land, and he does mention that our victim was kind of possibly the only one in their family who was opposed to selling it, and that he had offered to. He knew that the county was interested in the land, and so he said, well, he offered to buy the plot of land because then he knew the county would come to him, and then he could increase the price and also make a profit. So to him, it was a win-win, and he knew that the family needed some money. So that was his interview. And then you go to David Edison's, the brother-in-law. He's the husband of Kath.
Yep. She's the
He
one
says he's the acting manager of Torville Pharmaceuticals, and that Kath owns the van, and that they had, drawn up some flyers, and he had Kath take the 820 bus to go post some of these flyers because he needed to finish some things up for work. He says he works from home on Fridays, so Kath can go into town and do the shopping and things. And while she's gone, he watches Kath's mom because she needs a lot of watching, apparently. So he says that Kath returned at about lunchtime. And he said the last time he talked to the victim was a couple weeks prior, and he and Kath had the victim and Kath had a conversation, but David says he didn't hear it. He, kind of tried to stay out of it, but that Kath was upset after whatever conversation they have, and he did refer to the victim that he was kind of a bit of a pest.
Okay.
So he seemed to verify a lot of the things that Kath mentioned in her interview, but didn't mention anything about smoking. So the only one I know so far that smokes is Nigel.
But he was smoking while talking to David.
So if you let me go back to it. I'll read this part. So Nigel Threlford. Sorry. So Threlford's talking about this piece of land. Sorry, let me try and find where it mentions the smoking specifically. Okay. So some context. Okay, so he's talking about the land. So Mr. Threlford's talking about the land. He says, let's just say it's a nice plot of land, but I couldn't have made much more use of it than any other in town until I caught wind of this project that the council was working on. Now I thought it in a bit poor taste, honestly, offering money for the land after that poor family had been asking for aid all these years. So I figured I could look after the Baileys, Andy's family, and make a little money all at once. If I offered the Baileys double, then the council would be knocking on my door for that land, and the price would have to be much higher than what I'd bought it for, of course. So detective says, I see, and you explained this to the Edisons? And he says, well, no, I can't say that I did. I didn't see that was necessary. I just went over to see how they were doing, and we talked it over. We talked it out over a few cigarettes. So he said he went to the Edisons. So it could be possible that Kath or David does smoke. If they talked it over a few cigarettes, so maybe that means Nigel and possibly David does smoke.
Okay. Okay, and so you finish your other one. Let me read this Debbie real quick. Dad, do you have one more to read?
Well, yeah. So Charlie Nichols was the editor, and he just said that Andy was real aggressive. He always saw conspiracy in everything. He lived alone, no steady girlfriend, but he was at odds with his family. And his sister one time said she could happily strangle Andy with her bare hands because he was always too busy to visit his mom. He and his sister were barely on visiting terms. Apparently, the money that he got, he came to the editor for the money, but the editor said, no, you pay it out of your own money, and if we really do get some information, I'll reimburse you. All their articles exposing the corruption never directly identified anybody, but he said he did take angry phone calls from some people, particularly Zara Ahmed and Threlford, who was ex-military. And he was unhappy about the articles. And he claimed he was going to pull his advertising budget from the newspaper, but he really didn't spend much on, he says, he barely spent enough on advertising to cover our coffee bill. He was vain, pompous, and a self-publicizing windbag. He said that, and this is where the girlfriend thing comes in, just that I have not seen him and his secretary out of each other's companies in the past 5 years. Bit much even for a personal assistant or whatever she is. So, this Threlford and his secretary sounds like they have a very involved relationship, and wouldn't put it past him or her to lie about his whereabouts. And then, but this guy also says, the editor, we understand he was shot. And let's see, they interviewed him on the 17th. Let's see, did it say in that original article that he was shocked or just that he died? Because how did he know he was shot? Yeah, it says the police cannot reveal details. So I don't think it said anything about shooting. So I don't know how this editor knew that he was shot. And the police said, sorry, we can't give any details out just yet. So then he said, he says, oh, come on, we one of our reporters was killed. Can't we get some information? Otherwise, we look pretty bad. Our own reporter, we can't even give any details on his murder. So that's kind of what he said, a summary. And then the other one I had was Russell Armitage. He was the owner of Armitage Landscaping, and they had been working at the Finland Hall, but he said all last week. But he says we began on Monday the 13th and finished the afternoon of Thursday, June 16th. So that's the day before the murder. So it doesn't sound like it was them that were using chainsaws. And he said there's no way you can get a four-wheeled vehicle into the woods, not even using the old mill tracks. So it says all we can do is sweep the debris from obstructing the paths once we are done. Nothing out of the ordinary last week, and we don't anticipate returning to tend to the Findon Hall woods for another month as per our contract. So it doesn't sound like it was the landscaping company that was using chainsaws that were heard. So maybe the motorcycle idea could be.
Or it's this van, this 2-liter petrol engine. So because, okay, so first question, I'm going to address this one from Keltoid. Wait, did they say why they think the 20 pounds was missing? It's because up here in this first anonymous letter, there's the person's offered $500 or is asked. Oh, so, okay, so the dude shows up with $500 to buy this information, and then gets shot, and they stuff the money in his mouth, but they only recovered $480. So they're thinking just because that's why they suspect 20 pounds are missing, because they think he arrived with 500 to begin with. So here's kind of my hypothesis right now. So if you go back to this document number 13, the forensics report. So you've got 3 bullets, fresh cigarettes. The cigarettes are from France. David was recently in France. It also says here 2 bullets recovered from the corpse. They're 38 caliber of a type issued from Wembley Mark IV. Markings do not match any recorded on central database. Additional notes: there did appear to be oily residue on the ground in one area of the crime scene. This is likely due to recent groundskeeping work in the area. But David, when the police were interviewing him, had oil, and he kept saying it was in his garage. So I think like David is likely the killer. He was there smoking. I don't know why you'd hang around and smoke 3 cigarettes though. Like, or actually,
He's waiting.
He's waiting, or it was I don't know why 3 people would join, but it's like you have the 3 people that were in the armed services, Nigel, the editor, and David. So both David and Nigel have a monetary thing. With Andy out of the way, they can sell the property. Nigel gets or David gets 100,000. Nigel gets some amount over that. That's what I'm thinking right here. But then I don't know if the van has anything to do with it. I don't know how they would get away. So if we look back at these questions, question number 1, who killed Andy Bailey? My hypothesis is David or Nigel, one of those people. Because like David, I don't know why he'd have a gun that old unless it was loaned to him by somebody else. But then why would someone loan the gun? Or they were, or there's multiple people there smoking cigarettes, and that's why there's multiple cigarettes there. Because it says 3 cigarette butts retrieved from the proximity of the victim's body. All 3 are in good condition and have not suffered any degree of deterioration from prolonged exposure. So all 3 of them could have been smoking, but it seems pretty boneheaded of them to smoke a cigarette right at the crime scene. But that's what I'm thinking right now. Any thoughts any other thoughts, Tyler?
No, obviously, so I missed out on some of the other evidence you read as I was reading my letters. Yeah.
Well,
As
same
far as
here.
those who benefit would be David and Nigel. And then I think they were trying to set up possibly Zara. I'm not exactly sure where Mr. Carlisle, the fisherman, because he did say after he heard the shots, if I remember correctly, he was trying to scramble up the hill, but he couldn't get up there immediately.
Yeah.
So he could see, and he was calling out, but he wasn't getting any response at first, which probably means after he heard the shots, he called up and maybe the killer or killers heard him and didn't respond, and he didn't get any screaming until Zara stumbles upon the body.
Well, I don't think he tried to get up the hill till he heard the screaming, though, right? I think.
I'll have to go back.
I think that's what
review his testimony or his interview.
I don't understand why he didn't go up there. It sounds like he just heard some shots, and there was odd noise. It sounded like a chainsaw up in the woods, and the occasional bang echoing around. Bang echoing around.
Bang it again.
Yeah. Sound of the river and the birds.
I'm gonna read through some of these other ones that I have. But how's everyone doing on time? I know it's almost 11 o'clock your time. I feel like we've read through all the evidence right now, so we've got to like put the pieces together.
Well, I think you've narrowed it. David's got some grease, right? He's tied to grease. He's tied to a military weapon, although
Older than him.
It's older than him, but then again, his father-in-law was in the military, right? Maybe the daughter got the weapon and he had access to it. And the father was dead.
Oh, and David took $20 to buy the flowers. That's the other thing, because he bought flowers. So who killed Andy Bailey?
Or 20 pounds?
David did. If the killer was not found present at the scene of the crime, then how did they escape notice entering and exiting? It's
I
like
think he
the
could have been
van,
on a motorcycle.
But does anybody talk about a motorcycle?
No, the one guy, the landscape guy, said it wasn't. It was. You couldn't even get a ATV or something. Let me look at that again. But it's not to say you couldn't get a motorcycle.
We left all the dead wood where it fell. There's no way you can get any sort of four-wheeled vehicle into the woods, not even using old mill tracks. Not even using the
A
old mill tracks.
four-wheeled vehicle. It doesn't say anything
Yeah,
about
I think that's
a motorcycle.
a four-wheel vehicle.
Yeah.
Is there any in the David Ellison one? Does he talk at all about a motorcycle?
Not that I recall, but I will go back to it real quick.
Okay, but that makes sense. David takes his father-in-law's gun, shoots person. This I read through Debbie Connor's thing. She's just saying that she picks him up and like she's either lying as well. I mean, what I don't understand still is why there are 3 cigarette butts, because that's a lot of smoking for one person to do after killing someone or before. And then also the typewriter, like how would he who's typing these letters? It just, I mean, could be David. This is also 1988 when this occurred.
Okay, now David also sent his wife in downtown on the 820 bus or train or something.
Yep.
So that gave him time to get over there. And particularly on a motorcycle. And she didn't get back till around lunchtime.
I mean, a motorcycle would sound kind of like a chainsaw, but we got to find. You would think that someone would make mention of a motorcycle if it's here, right?
Yeah.
I work as acting manager of Turville Pharmaceuticals. Okay. Okay, look through the stuff for motorcycle, because if we have Dad, your hand is blocking your camera.
Sorry.
If we have if we
I
can
don't
find
have any mention of a motorcycle in David's interview.
then I think we're good, and I think we know pretty much all the other answers and we can test them out. But until we have some sort of confirmation that there's some two-wheeled vehicle, and then also like, so yeah, the typewriter didn't come from any of those places because it came presumably from this house that they didn't collect information from. Would be the other guess.
All right, so here we go. Here's your motorcycle. So in the flyer for the van that I would assume is in their driveway, there's a motorcycle.
Good eye.
I didn't see it. Nice. Yeah.
Way to go, Sherlock.
Yeah, there you go.
It's Dr. Watson.
Elementary, Watson.
Okay, so there's the motorcycle. So let's go back to our questions here. We just had to read all the evidence and then we are piecing this together. So who killed Andy Bailey? David. If the killer was not found present at the scene, then how did they escape, entering and exiting? A motorcycle. Where did the murder weapon come from? The victim's father.
Yeah.
We have reason to believe $20 missing. Who took this money? What was it used for? To buy a bouquet of flowers. We're gonna try this out. We're gonna do this. We solved it, guys. We pulled it out under the 2-hour mark. I think that's the I mean, it wasn't 2 hours like a buck. It was an hour 30 after my blabbering. Okay, let's try this out. Share screen.
Well, we had some issues with the documents at first.
Yep. Okay, let's go here. I'm gonna go to window. We're gonna go to this. Got to go to thinkfun.com/cold case.
I think if we do another one of these, we'd do it the way we kind of ended up, where we each kind of read something and pull the key data from it. It just speeds it up.
So here it is. Case number 722-516. Victim, Andy Bailey. Records show 4 outstanding issues. Who killed Andy Bailey? David Edison.
David Edison.
How did the killer escape? Motorcycle. Good work. You found some clues. Nice job spotting Le Signe Bleu poster on the back of the newspaper. Now we know that cigarettes could only have been acquired in France, but we know that it was either Kath or David who was at the scene of the crime with Andy, since, as Kath states, she and David had just returned from France. It sounds plausible that David rode his motorbike up and down the old mill to access the scene of the crime. So let me zoom in. That would explain the oil stains at the crime scene and the chainsaw-like sounds that Zara and Terry reported hearing, even though Mr. Armitage clearly reported that his crew had finished work the day before. There are still a few questions remaining. Proceed to the next page to see if you have enough evidence to solve the case. Where did the murder weapon come from? The home. Hang on a second. Let me close this. Mrs. Bailey's house in the attic. Oh yeah. Okay. So you had that they had that it came from the father-in-law, and in her thing, I didn't. Let me just read this so you get the full thing. One of the stuff that they talked about, the will and who left stuff to who.
This is Kath Edison.
Kath Edison says the will. Let me find it. Dad left the house, everything. David was left battered old army trunks full of his old boots, uniform, and such like. They're up in our attic, but David was really touched by Dad doing that. So he got his army stuff, which presumably was the old thing.
Oh.
What was the $20 missed for? Spent by David to buy flowers. Ready, guys? We're staking
It is.
our careers on this. We're getting closer, but you're not there yet. There's no reason to believe that the gun would have been in Mrs. Bailey's attic. Check document 10.
That's the interview with Kath Edison.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Like Mrs. Bailey, Miss Edison's house, excuse me, in the attic. Used to buy flowers. You've uncovered evidence that's different from anything that's been presented. There should be enough to reopen the case. Several months later, I write to inform you the Royal Prosecution Service is with great pleasure that I inform you that your theory yielded enough evidence to reopen the case of Andy Bailey's murder in 1988. And with all the evidence you presented, you were able to secure a full confession from David Edison. I have condensed his admissions below. I just couldn't stand Andy lording about with his pretensions of moral superiority while Kath and I slaved away to care for his mother. I knew all about our problems. I knew all our problems would be solved if he were just out of the picture. When I heard him telling Kath about that Project Horizon or whatever it was, I knew I had enough to lure him into it. I figured I could convince that Ahmed woman down there too with the same scrap of information, and with all the friction between them, the police would have no problem putting her away for what it would look like she'd done. I took my motorcycle down the old mill tracks, knowing no one would see me. I had been leaking on and off, but I had no idea I left oil at the scene of the crime. When Andy arrived, he couldn't believe I was there. But before he could say a word, I shot him dead, 2 bullets for 100,000 pounds, plus the 20 I nicked from his pocket. The rest I stuffed in his mouth. He could keep his filthy money. I spent the 20 pounds on flowers for Kath's mom on the way home. I thought of it as Andy's first contribution to the ongoing care of his mother. I thought I was home free all these years, but I guess the past always catches up with you eventually. I would do it all again. It allowed Kath to have her life back, and that's all I ever wanted. There you have it. An excellent job all around. We have more unsolved cases available if you ever feel inclined to help. Sincerely, Sophie Miller, Royal Prosecution Service Administrator. Congrats,
Cool.
guys. We did it.
Yay!
Nice.
We're not horrible detectives.
I know. We can leave with our heads held high. Great. We had a couple people stay with us the whole stream. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you followed along as well with us. I'm going to be changing the URL to those additional cases on Amazon if you're interested. But we solved it, guys. Well done. Thanks for being here. Thanks. My brother and parents are in different time zones, so they're up late. So go to bed. Go to bed, you guys. Have a great weekend. And thanks to everybody on the stream. See you later.
Bye.